In the Black Out Loud.
Lead by example. Workplace ethics can play a crucial role in an organization's success, with ethical businesses often outperforming their unethical counterparts financially and in employee retention. Experts explain how to cultivate an ethical workplace culture. By Beth Wallace. This article has been edited for audio purposes. Article begins. Workplace ethics have a significant impact on an organization's success. Research suggests that ethical businesses are more productive and perform better financially than those with unethical cultures. Ethical businesses are more likely to attract and retain talent and build trust with employees, customers, and the public. On the flip side, perceived unethical behavior can discourage employee engagement, leading to reputational damage and even legal problems. Although not one single factor defines an ethical culture, organizations that excel in this area tend to have one thing in common: a clearly stated set of core values and principles tied to a defining purpose, says Dr. Simon Longstaff, AOFCPA, Executive Director at the Ethics Center. He says these values and principles provide a guiding star for the policies, structures, and frameworks that dictate how an organization operates and ensure a close alignment between what is said and done. Longstaff says ethical organizations promote a culture of curiosity that goes beyond compliance. Such a culture can empower employees to stay on the right path by always questioning how and why things are done. Dr. Simon Longstaff adds, it's not restricted to wondering about things that appear to be a problem. It's curiosity about why anything is done. The two great enemies of achieving an ethical culture are hypocrisy, where you say one thing and do something else, and an unthinking custom and practice. However, he explains that neither is necessarily intentional. He says, when ethical failures occur and you talk to the people involved and ask them, how did this happen? The first thing they will say is, I didn't see it at the time. Everybody was doing it, or that is just the way things were done. While not all organizations have a perfect ethical culture, very few are unscrupulous to the core. So ethical environments rarely need to be built from the ground up. Some organizations may simply need to build on what they already do well. An ethical workplace culture will also look different for everybody, says Belinda Zorob McConnell, Regulation and Standards Lead at CPA Australia. She says, even within an organization, the perception of whether the culture is ethical will vary, unless there is some sort of framework providing a point of reference. For accountants, an ethical culture can be built upon the requirements set out in the APS 110 Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants. However, for anyone else in business, establishing or furthering an ethical culture may be more challenging when there is no framework to build upon. In such situations, Zorob McConnell says the existence or absence of an ethical culture can be assessed against an organization's internal and external facing missions, values, strategies, commitments, and policies, and whether it's prepared to be held accountable against these. An ethical culture must be based on achieving commitments and transparent outcomes, she adds. For example, if a business is committed to achieving gender diversity at management level, the efforts undertaken to attain this and the outcomes of such efforts must be communicated openly to internal and external stakeholders together with an opportunity for open reflection on the strategy and the results. Zoreb McConnell says, similarly, a commitment to openness and transparency with stakeholders concerning a strategic move must be paired with a facility to hear and respond to feedback from such stakeholders. Leaders play a vital role in guiding an organization's ethical compass. Governance, risk, and audit expert Diane Azur-Hughes says leaders are responsible not only for helping to define its core values and principles, but also for modeling ethical behavior and ensuring employees feel comfortable raising dilemmas at the earliest opportunity. A Gallup study found that while just 40% of US employees report unethical behavior in the workplace, they are 24% more likely to do so if they trust leadership. To build this trust, Azure Hughes says ethics should guide all decision making, and leaders must align their actions with the company's internal policies and procedures to reflect a practical ethical approach as to how partners and staff should conduct themselves across all service lines. An organization can deeply ingrain its principles by celebrating them in staff performance evaluations, she adds, and by encouraging open communication, letting team members know where to go when they need assistance if matters do arise. She says staff should be able to seek help with ethical issues without fear or favor as to the outcome, but with a common understanding that resolution of any perceived ethical issue is paramount. Just as organizations support workers to improve their job skills, so too can they guide them towards becoming their best moral selves, says Isaac Smith, Associate Professor of Organizational Behavior and Human Resources at Brigham Young University. He believes one of the keys to designing an environment that promotes ethical learning is to build opportunities for moral reflection into the everyday experience of employees. It's often said that we learn from experience, but that is only partly true, he explains. We only learn from experience that we reflect on. In terms of morality and ethics at work, institutionalizing moral reflection can go a long way toward helping people learn from their experiences. For example, organizations can make ethics a part of work reviews. Isaac Smith says, asking ethics related questions, both before and after projects, can encourage people to learn from past experiences and prepare for future experiences. He says ethical reflection can also be institutionalized into the work environment through mentoring relationships, performance evaluations, and during onboarding and training. Of the latter, Isaac Smith believes that studies suggest that ethics training is less effective in short, infrequent sessions or when administered exclusively through online platforms or in lectures. Conversely, ethics training with more experiential and reflective components is more effective, he argues. When workers are inexperienced themselves, you can use scenarios and case studies to help them engage in deeper reflection about ethical issues. Employee ethical development does not rest solely on the shoulders of the organization. Accountants, for example, can educate themselves about ethical requirements through self study and referring to the Accounting Professional and Ethical Standards Board guidelines and their firm's internal policies. Diane Azur-Hughes advises employees to consult with more senior colleagues when they are uncertain about situations that arise during their professional work. Often, an uneasy feeling will be the first prompt to an employee to examine and consult on an issue of concern to determine the course of action needed, she says. Associate Professor Isaac Smith recommends employees adopt a three-stage approach to staying on the right path. Prepare in advance for ethical challenges, make good decisions in the moment, and reflect on and learn from successes and failures. He says to support this approach, employees can take several steps to proactively prepare for ethical challenges rather than simply reacting when they occur. These include identifying their personal values, setting ethically relevant goals, engaging in self reflection, finding an ethics mentor, or seeking guidance and moral feedback from others. It's also important for individuals to consult organizational policies, clarify the expectations of their job, and find a job with the right moral fit where their own values align with the organization, he adds. When employees identify an opportunity to make improvements, Belinda Zorb McConnell urges them to share it with their employer. She also believes employees should hold their organization accountable to the changing expectations of stakeholders. What may have been considered ethical 10 years ago may no longer be seen in the same light. She says, apart from legislative and regulatory changes over such a period, societal expectations may have changed substantially. Belinda Zorb McConnell says, for the benefit of both internal and external stakeholders, the standards to which an organization holds itself and its workforce accountable must be reviewed regularly.
In the Black Out Loud.